No,
when
it's
we
not.
left to go to the airport.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, it was still packed down there.
You
Yeah.
see all the escorts leaving the building?
Oh, there were escorts.
I had a tour, helicopter tour,
Yeah.
which I'm glad I with, because after what happened in New York.
Oh, yeah.
But I had to be out there like at 5:30 in the morning, and all these girls walking out.
I'm strolling back.
Uh,
Yeah.
No, it was a good time. I went, drove a Lamborghini when I was down there.
Oh, really?
For my birthday, yeah. At the racetrack that's down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lydia bought that for my birthday.
Nice.
Yeah. Did 5 laps around the track.
Do they let you go by yourself?
No, I went with a professional race car driver beside me.
Someone with a brake.
Yeah. Well, he didn't have a brake, but yeah, he was going to tell me like, when to hit it,
Yeah.
when to brake.
And how fast did you get?
Up to 130, which is about as fast as you can go in it on the straightaway.
Yeah.
Oh, you could have done that alone.
Uh,
Except you would have had a Lamborghini.
Yeah, well, it's like, it's like a road course. So,
Oh, right, yeah. And then you stop.
yeah.
You were at Fremont Street,
Oh yeah, I went through Mill Street. Yeah. Where'd you stay when you went there?
Horseshoe, I think.
Horseshoe? Yeah.
It's stuck to the Frenchwood.
The Bellagio?
No, it's a Horseshoe and Paris, is it called? I think it's Paris, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Are pretty much connected.
Yep.
Bellagio was across the street.
Yep. Then we stayed at the Bellagio a couple days, then we're at the Wynn, and then El Cortez was out in Fremont, that section. We stayed there for 2 days too.
Fountains are nice.
Awesome. We were up on the second to the top, like 27th floor up, right in front of, so we got the show the whole time.
Oh,
That's pretty
cool.
cool. Yeah.
Well, I've only been to Vegas once. And it wasn't even planned, it was, first year I went over to work in the US, I was in Washington State. And it was when, McCain's had bought a couple of plants in the US. And, I was vice president of manufacturing, and they wanted me to go to the US and take that position over in the US. So I went out to Washington, and this plant needed a lot of work and was in a lot of trouble. And it was coming up to Thanksgiving, and one of the people said to me, well, what are we doing here at Thanksgiving? And I said, we're gonna work right through. We got so much to do here, we're working.
Plus, we had our Thanksgiving in October.
Well, Thanksgiving isn't a big deal in Canada, in all honesty. But I said this, and boy, I couldn't get over the reaction from people. So I finally said to my secretary, I said, there's something wrong, what's going on? He said, well, it's Thanksgiving. And I said, yeah. He says, well, that's a pretty big deal. She says, well, she says, Thanksgiving is more important here than Christmas is. More people come home and have their Thanksgiving than they do at Christmas. And I said, oh. So I asked the department managers and everything there and talked to them, and then I went home that night and I said to Barb, I said, the plant's gonna be down for 3 or 4 days here. I said, you wanna go to Vegas? And she said, well, I don't know. She said, my guess, and the kids wanted to go, so we flew to Vegas for Thanksgiving. Well, I enjoyed it. The kids had a great time. I forget the place we even stayed, but they had like a basement, and then it all stuck to the kids in the basement.
Yeah.
It was a fairly new place then. I mean, now I don't even know it's standing anymore, but back then it was a pretty good place to stay, so.
Yeah, are we on?
Yeah, I guess so. Turn on the mic. We'll call the April 16th meeting for the Caribou Utilities District to order. First item on the agenda tonight is approval of the minutes.
Move to accept the minutes of the March 12th meeting.
Second.
All those in favor? Financial reports, budget and financial reports for the period ending March 2025.
So I don't know if you saw in the management report, some of the stuff that's still in this budget will be moved back to 2024 when Tim does his final adjustments. They're running a bit behind, so that hasn't been done yet. So you're still seeing some stuff that's 2024 that's in here. That will be moved back. And then also when I rolled this out later than the start of the year, the girls in the office were billing stuff into the same lines they were in 2024. So now we're going back through them and saying, okay, actually that doesn't belong in this account anymore, it belongs in another one. So there'll be some stuff that'll be shifted around through some journal entries. So it's still early in the year. I'm not seeing anything that's overly concerning at this point, even though some of these numbers look like the percentages are at 50% or more. That's really not the case.
Yeah.
What about the wages? 28% and
Yeah.
27, and we gonna have enough, or is there gonna be adjustment there?
No, so I think we still have the extra payroll that's still kind of averaging out as one.
Oh, okay.
And then the other thing, I don't know if we talked about it last time, but it was in the management report that when I calculated it, there was one cell that wasn't added in, so we're about $5,000 or so short on each side. So I think we will fall a little bit of a shortfall, but it was a new spreadsheet that I had built, and I didn't realize it until afterwards. And when Gary started questioning the numbers, I went back to the spreadsheet, and that's when I realized that there was a cell that wasn't added in when I had factored that. So,
Do we have a contingency?
yes and no. We do have we have asset reserves that we fund that they just go into reserve. So there is money that.
So should we move more money, no?
I don't think, yeah, we'll just see how it shakes out. When we get closer to the end of the year, I mean, ultimately, it's all the same money. We'd like to fund those asset reserves for future projects, but that's not always the case, so.
Any other questions on the financials? Jay? Tim? Any?
I'll make one note, like on the wastewater treatment, the 508, we actually have a credit shown right now, the 3,000. That's because that's the reimbursement for the power outage damage that happened in 2024, got paid, it just got recently paid out, so that's why we're seeing a credit on that account. It's unusual to have a expense line that has a credit, but that's why.
But will that go back into 2024?
I don't know. I think when Tim did the audit, it wasn't in yet, so I'm assuming that will stay in 2025, but when it comes time to do those adjusted journal entries, I'll ask him if it should be shifted back to 2024, or if there's like a date that he just chooses as like an arbitrary date of nothing after that's received.
I mean, in all honesty, if we're taking we should be taking both the debits and the credits
Correct.
back if
Yeah.
they're 2024.
Yeah, but yeah, see, most of those happen right off though, like in the month of January, we have most of those expenses that go back. So when it comes after that, I don't know how it's handled, to be honest. So,
All right.
yeah.
Well, you're going to inquire anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all I had.
Move to,
Go ahead, yeah.
move to accept the financials.
I'll second it.
All those in favor? Okay, John, updates on the water and wastewater?
Yeah, sure. So I've got a few updates. We did get the office computers all up to date with the new operating system, so we're good when Microsoft stopped supporting the platforms that we were using. So it was nice to get that project behind us. We also had the 2015 service truck repaired, so we had the rockers, quarter panels were replaced. The service box in the back was replaced, and then we painted the whole truck white to match kind of the new vehicles. We debated what to do with that truck, but I think by doing that work, this truck's going to last quite a bit longer, so it should be in pretty good shape now. And then the office car was purchased. That, like I was saying, that one was a slightly over budget, but luckily that transportation capital improvement budget that we talked about, the 2 new trucks and the service body all came in at or under budget, so there was still enough wiggle room to cover the vehicle. And then we're going to also, we haven't talked about it when we talked about what vehicles we're getting rid of, but we're gonna sell the Yukon if we can get an acceptable price for it as well. It continues to have problems, so.
Should know this, what's the life expectancy of like the service truck and those kind of things?
The truck itself is really not much different than a personal vehicle, but it's the boxes, those steel boxes that are on the back, they tend to rust out. So this one that we purchased was an aluminum, so I guess they will corrode, but usually at a slower rate. So we're hoping that we'll get a lot longer life out of this one than the ones in the past. So yeah, the exact time I don't know. The other one was original when they purchased the truck, so yeah, about 10 years of the other one. And we're going to work with RCAP Solutions and do a salary home income survey, kind of as a way to hopefully show that get our poverty rate lower than what's listed on the census, and that will help us with scoring on some grants in the future. And they have a grant program. They'll cover 100% of the costs with the exception of any mailings that have to be done. So it'd be a small lift on our part. They go out into the community and they send the first surveys out through the mail, and then whatever responses don't get back, then they go knock on door to door. So it's fairly labor intensive to do.
I would say, because I would think a lot of people aren't going to send something back about an income survey for their home.
Correct. Jay can probably attest to that from over the years of stuff that they've done. So, yeah, most of the work is done knocking on the door and begging and explaining.
And RCAP is compiling the data and
Yes, yeah. And we're going to double check with rural development to make sure we get kind of exactly what they need out of the survey. I don't want to go through it and be like, oh, well, you should have gathered some other demographics or something. We want to make sure we get it all at the same time. So. And then one item that wasn't on the management report is that the funds for the vacuum truck are in. The truck is expected in late summer. But there was a fear that the grant was going to get clawed back from the federal government. So they've gone ahead and paid it out already. We invoiced the state, and so the money's sitting in our account. It's in a 0% interest account until it's time to purchase the truck. So that's good to have that secured in our bank account.
Yep.
Any questions so far? I'm sorry.
Nope.
Okay. Feel free to interrupt me if there is. The guys continue to repair water leaks. I have 11, but I forgot to update that number. I think we're about 13 now. They fixed another one today. you know, rain or shine, doesn't matter, cold, they go out there and do it. So it's nice to have a crew that's willing to just go do it when they see that it needs to be done. Also on the water side, the grant that we had talked about to study kind of our pressure zones and what we have for capacity. And then a subset of that would be seeing if we have the capacity to interconnect with LDA. That grant did come through. Deergo has been hired to do it, and they will have the study back to us by fall, I think in November.
Is this going to include growth on the base? I mean,
Yes, we'll rely on LDA to provide a kind of where they see things in the future. Obviously, they know where they're going to be at with the new chip plant, but other growth or contraction over there, I'm not sure. We'll rely on them. And ultimately, if the day comes where we have to connect, we'll have to establish a number like X amount of gallons a month or whatever, and above that, then we'll have to reassess the contract. We want to make sure that we maintain capacity in our community for future growth here, and not, put all of our eggs in one basket and send water.
And this deal with the LDO, this only pertains to water, not sewage, correct?
Correct, yes, yep. That's all I have for water. And then on the wastewater side, we've been working with Jim Lord at Deergo to kind of come up with a probable cause of all of our wastewater projects. Cost of our projects that we'd like to have done. And at the time we were anticipating the CDS applications opening back up, and kind of since then they did. It was a really tight window to get we had to reapply, even though Senator Collins supported our project last year and it didn't get funded because of the continuing resolution. They asked everybody to reapply because they knew that cost had changed over the course of a year, and the priority list may have changed for communities. Maybe they did partial projects, and now that the scope has changed, so they asked everybody to reapply. So we did reapply. That went out on Friday of last week, so it was good to get that one behind us. And then we're in the final stages of applying for Clean Water SRF for the match requirement for the CDS, or whatever they can offer. It doesn't necessarily have to be the match, because CDS doesn't come through whatever's awarded through Clean Water SRF. We might still be able to do part of a project. And did everybody get the email that I sent afterwards regarding the follow-up questions from Susan Collins' office about making sure that there was board support for the project, and that we will attain the match through another grant source or a loan to cover the 20% match requirement? Did you get that?
I got the email,
Okay, yeah.
and you wanted a motion, but
Yeah, I don't.
I'd have to look that
Yeah,
up.
I get it. So I get the right stack of paper here.
Oh, you have it there?
It doesn't have to be this exact language either. It's just kind of a sample that I pulled together, kind of the gist of what I was talking about.
So the 889,000, what are the odds of getting grants on that part? Good, bad?
few years ago, it said probably good, but now, I don't know, it's probably questionable.
Any problems with us getting a loan for that?
I don't think so. The bond bank hasn't had any problem loaning us money, and we retired the Hatch plant last year. That principal and interest loan was almost $100,000, so we freed up some debt, so.
Any comments on this? Any thoughts? Jay?
So I from past experience, I know what they're looking for. They just want to make sure that they don't fund a project and then a utility say, oh, we don't have the match, and then all that work that they've done to secure the appropriation disappears because the community can't get the match. So I think they're just trying to
Yeah.
make sure that when she signs her name to something, that the community is involved, they understand, and are willing to make sure they can secure the match. And so the total project cost is about 5.5 million, so, you know, having an $80,000 or $800,000, $900,000 match, that's, I don't think we're gonna get much better than that on a project.
All right, so we need somebody to make the motion.
I'll make a motion. I moved that the CUD commit 20% matching funds for the critical infrastructure upgrade project contingent upon the award of a congressional directed spending grant. These matching funds will be available and unencumbered, ensuring prompt and efficient utilization as the project progresses. This financial commitment underscores our dedication to enhancing infrastructure and supporting the community's needs.
You have a seconder?
A second. I do have a question. Do we have to have the match committed before the award, at the time of the award, or do we have a kind of a grace period after the award?
Before we start to draw, so we've got lots of time.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? John, you have a letter I have to sign then, do you?
Yep, I've got it right here for you before we go. And that's all I have for wastewater. The last item was that my 6-month probation period expired, and I just wanted to see if the group had any interest in extending probation or just kind of treating me as a full-time employee at this point.
Should this be done in executive session?
It can be, if you'd like. You want to make a motion to go into executive session, you can do that.
I move under state statute 1 MRSA number 4056A, personnel matters, to go into executive session.
All those,
Yep, second.
all those in favor? Okay. John, can you just
Yep.
excuse us for,
Of course, yeah.
won't be long, don't go far.
Everybody got their mics off?
Do we need to shut the camera off on this?
No, I don't think so.